Let's go.
Right. So, Linda, today I want us to discuss this issue of Zambia. Zambia has become a problem of the region. In fact, by the time that we had Hichilema coming into power, we know that shenanigans took place. The Americans were vastly involved in sabotaging the previous president. A lot of activity was undertaken. The CIA were undertaking operations within Zambia. People died in the process, and nobody knows about this. And yet it's part and parcel of the agenda of what it is that the Americans want to do through Zambia by bringing in AFRICOM, because of the fact that Botswana is actually looking at removing the base. Now, you wrote an article that is making everybody feel uncomfortable in Zambia. And the question that I'm asking is, why are they uncomfortable in Zambia if what you're saying is not true? The entire media wants to interview you. I wrote an article as well where I was talking about how Hichilema himself came into power after being a billionaire, used to privatize Zambian assets, Zambian resources, and Zambian parastatals to leave Zambia with nothing, to the extent that right now it survives by generally borrowing finances from China and other parts of the world, because it was left bankrupt without any real assets and factors of production because of the current president, Hichilema. And now today, this very same man, who we have been trying to be diplomatic towards, has decided to put AFRICOM in Southern Africa, a region that has been very stable,
very peaceful,
a region that is
peaceful.
Yes, and everywhere else where the United States has got a base, there is a lot of problems. In East Africa, we know the Kenyans have got a base, got a British base, an American base, and they've got the problem with Al-Shabaab. We know that in Somalia they've got a base, they've got problems there. Lemania in Djibouti, they've got a base, there's problems there. In West Africa, wherever they've got a base, we've got issues in Nigeria. We've got issues with terrorism. What is your take, and what is it that you feel about this issue of Zambia, which is allowing the continuous colonization of the African continent now by the addition of a base in Southern Africa where we didn't have one?
Thank you, Ritindo. I feel like the current administration in Zambia, led by President Hichilema, is actually selling out and reversing the gains of the liberation struggle in SADC states. We must not also forget that Zambia was the first to attain independence, and a lot of countries actually looked up to Zambia as they struggled to fight for their own independence. And that is the bond that Zambia has with the rest of Southern African countries. And fast forward today, having a new Zambian government that is in bed with America, setting up a security office of cooperation in Zambia is actually scary. It is actually a real cause of concern, which a lot of SADC African countries should actually start interrogating. Because we have had a lot of issues around the recolonization of Africa, and just the mere aspect of having military presence, foreign military presence in your country, it is a feature of the new scramble for Africa. A lot of African presidents have ignored this. They've not looked at the implications of setting up of such offices and how they actually destabilize our own continent. We have seen the destabilization in North Africa. We saw the destabilization in East and West Africa. And it will only be folly for us in Southern Africa to allow the destabilization of our region because we want to entertain the American military in our space. There is no strengthening or cooperation that is going to be happening. We all know how the American military works. We all know how CIA works. Unfortunately, unlike most people under the sun, I am not afraid of the CIA. I will speak boldly and confidently about their covert and overt operations because they've been responsible for almost all the problems we've been facing in Africa. All the problems we're having in Zimbabwe are the third hand and the third force of the CIA in this country.
And what a lot of people do not understand is that Zambia, in as much as they're given credit for assisting us to get our independence in Zimbabwe, even under Kaunda, they were actually in bed with the West.
Exactly.
Henry Kissinger was talking to Kaunda, and Kaunda felt that Zimbabwe must not be liberated by the gun, but it must be liberated by negotiation, because he felt that if they won by the gun, property rights of white people would be lost, and that industry that was assisting the Zambian economy would be lost in the process. So a lot of times our leaders want to give credit to Zambia because they appreciate the fact that we were given training bases. But what our leaders don't say is that Zanla had to leave Zambia.
Exactly.
When Zanla leaders were being arrested in Zambia because they would not agree to negotiation.
Exactly.
There is even allegations by certain books that Chitepo himself was probably killed with the collusion of Kaunda because he wanted the war to end so that there would be a negotiated settlement in which property rights would remain in the hands of white people. So that would mean that our land reform wouldn't have taken place.
Exactly.
And so now I start wondering, with the actions of people like Kalibwe and the actions of the current president, that does this government actually have the interest of Pan-Africanism, or does it actually have the interest of continuing what it is that Henry Kissinger said in NSSM 39, that Southern Africa should become an area of control for the Americans because it's the gulf of strategic mineral resources, which include platinum, chrome,
Uranium.
nickel, uranium, and of
Diamonds,
course,
lithium.
yes, and
you
there's the
name it.
issue of Kanyemba, where apparently the Americans have had a lot of interest on Kanyemba. They wanted
Because of the
to
gas, the oil, the uranium
the
there.
uranium there, and they wanted
And
to
they
develop
wanted
a
to set
city.
a base there.
Yes,
They also
and
wanted
set
to
a
set
base
a base
there.
there. That is something that a lot of people do not know, that Zimbabwe resisted the setting up of a base in Kanyemba. And when they couldn't set it up, they had to go the route in Zambia because it is closer to Kanyemba. What they are interested in are the minerals in Kanyemba and the minerals in Zambia. The Americans never, and they have never cared about the interests of Africans. Their interests about what they can get out of Africa. And until we get to a time where Africans understand that they do not care for us, we are just going to be selling out the future of our children, the posterity of Africa, for aid. Aid is the use of soft power to subdue us. The setting up of this cooperation office in Zambia means that the military in Zambia no longer has power. It will be reporting to the American brigadier who will be heading that security, the Office of Security Cooperation. And these are things that people have to understand, and things that the Zambians have to resist. The Zambians have to interrogate all these issues because their military is going to be subdued eventually, and they are going to be controlled by the Americans, and they no longer have their sovereignty, and they no longer have any inch of territorial integrity. It is important for Zambians to understand that.
And if they've got any doubts, the Zambians must understand that AFRICOM is currently based in Germany. And Germany is an American colony. It is occupied by over 45,000 US soldiers that are sitting in Germany at this particular moment. And not only that, it's not the only base. AFRICOM is not the only base in Germany. There's also Ramstein, which is the biggest military base of the Americans. It's actually a city, an American city with McDonald's, with banks, financial institutions, and accommodation schools and universities for Americans within Germany. And they are the ones that determine even German policy. Do you know that Germany cannot manufacture certain weapons? They cannot manufacture certain things. They cannot manufacture aeroplanes today because of the Potsdam Agreement that was had after the Second World War, when Germany was officially occupied and colonized by the Americans. Many people don't know this.
Yes,
if they can do that,
issue yesterday on Hot FM. I actually articulated that if the Americans are doing that in European countries,
and Japan,
think about the effects if they come into Africa, which is so poor. We are trading our continent for the presence of the US military. We don't need them. Zambians should resist this, SADC should resist this, and the rest of Africa should resist this.
And finally, let me also actually tell you that the Americans actually have a blueprint or a strategy that is called the New Silk Route. The New Silk Route actually says that they want to establish bases on the African continent in all parts of the world that make sure that they can launch a military attack and occupation of any country within 3 hours. So the New Silk Route that's coming through Africa is an establishment of bases in all parts of Africa so that they can attack any capital city within 3 hours through those military bases, lily pads, and other types of American establishments in countries that are in Africa. And Zambia has already started playing towards giving America that power. They have already begun to allow the Americans to recolonize Africa through their military on the African continent. And we are saying we do not need this. But let's also warn the Zambians. The South Africans currently enjoy super star status, or shall we call superpower status in Southern Africa. And by you allowing the Americans to establish their interests in Zambia, you are actually poking the eyes of the South Africans, and eventually this is going to put you at loggerheads with the South Africans in terms of trade, with the South Africans in terms of loans, the South Africans in terms of trading relationships, and ultimately militarily. So let the Zambians be isolation. And it will lead to isolation in the SADC region. The reason why Masisi has been trying to remove the base in Botswana is he's trying to realign with the rest of SADC. And you, Hachilema, have decided to come because of your Grand Thornton history, your history as a consultant for American and British firms that recolonized and allowed the Zambians to lose their resources, to lose the control of their factors of production. And you are now beginning to put yourself at loggerheads with SADC. You're not going to win this war.
Lastly, my advice to the Zambian government is for them to consult and observe the SADC protocols of defense and